Coming up next, we visit Israel with my guest, Paul Schneider. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Jack Barron, host of Travels with Jack on Access Framingham TV, where guests share with our audience a recent trip. It might be a vacation, a cruise, or even a business trip. They'll share their photos and you'll hear about the very interesting places they have visited. On today's show, my guest is Somerville resident Paul Schneider. In January 2014, Paul went on a Birthright trip to Israel. Paul will tell us what that means, and we'll see his beautiful photos of the Holy Land. What parts of the world have you visited? Please be my guest on Travels with Jack and share your travel experience with our viewing audience. Please phone us at Access Framingham TV and let us know you'd like to be a guest. You can phone AFTV at 508-875-5434. Or you can send an email message to info@accessfram.tv. Our associate producer, Andrea, will contact you to make arrangements for you to be on our show here on AFTV. If you don't live in Massachusetts, we would be pleased to assist with your travel to the Access Framingham studio. And now, let me welcome today's guest, Paul Schneider. Paul, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, I do need to correct one thing. You went in 2015, so
Yes.
just a few months ago.
Yes.
Okay, so my audience, 2015 January was the trip.
Yes.
All right. Paul Schneider grew up in Wayland and is a graduate of Brandeis University recently. And he was a major in health sciences and media. Kind of an interesting combination. He currently is on a EMT. He is currently an EMT for a medical transportation company and also works at Beth Israel Hospital in the emergency department. Paul is also training to be a paramedic. In case he doesn't know it, he's on his way to producing the next big medical TV show. Paul currently lives in Somerville and is a very active fan of camping, rock climbing, hiking, and other outdoor events. He loves making and watching films and is constantly looking for more free time, which I can understand. His trip to Israel was 10 days, and how did you get there? Tell me a little bit. You left from where, ended up where? Give me the 911.
Sure. So the flight was actually out of JFK in New York, so I ended up going down a few days early and spending some time with family and doing some things there. We flew from JFK to Brussels.
Okay.
And that was about, I think, a 6 or 7 hour flight.
Yep.
Where we had a little bit of a layover there for about 2 or 3 hours. And then we flew from there to Tel Aviv, which is another 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
And it was a great time. It was a lot of time to bond and kind of get to know the other people on the trip.
So you went with how many people?
So our group was 40 people.
Oh, okay. So it's a good-sized group.
Yeah, it was a good size group.
Mostly kids your age?
Yeah. So
I say kids because I'm old. But
yeah. So the program is that I went on was Birthright, and they do trips for people, Jewish adults, 18 to 26. So my trip was 22-year-olds to 26-year-olds.
Yep.
And it's they also do different niche programs as well. So they have programs that are specifically for fraternities and sororities, as well as medical professionals and like ROTC
I didn't know that.
members. Yeah, so they have a lot of like little special programs.
I donate to them, so I didn't.
Yeah.
I should know, but
Yeah, it's
okay. And they paid for most of the trip.
Yes, so they paid for everything basically. The only
Everything.
thing that we had to pay for was one meal a day or lunch. We'd go out, and you could easily spend like $5, and that was you could easily get away with just spending that throughout the entire trip, $5 a day.
Really?
Yeah, if you.
So economically, this is for everybody.
Yes, so like the goal of the program is to send you for free. So people who would not otherwise be able to go and spend a couple grand on a trip to Israel now get to go and spend 10 days going from point to point, north to south, all over, and seeing all the different places and learning more about the Holy Land.
Wonderful. Israel spends a lot of money globally to bring people there to see the country. So I think this is part of their overall, I'll call it education of the public. Now, this is a photo of what?
So this is day one. We arrived at our hotel in Tiberias, which is one of the 4 holy cities in Israel. This is the Sea of Galilee, which is actually has multiple different religious and historic aspects to it. This is when you hear about Jesus walking on water. This is supposedly where it happened.
Oh, okay.
But it's also a great view from your hotel.
And you look like you had good weather.
Yes, we were there during the winter months, so we had sunshine every day. It was between 55 and 80
my
degrees
goodness.
every day. It was awesome.
Remind me to tell you, I was there in December a couple of years ago with snow.
Yeah, there was actually snow a couple days before we got there, and I'm very glad we missed it. And then we ended up missing the first
And let
big
me
storm
tell you,
here.
they weren't ready for snow.
No,
but this is a picture of your pictures are good, by the way.
Thank you. I have a lovely camera, which I brought with me that I like to use.
Yeah, these are great photos. This is what?
So this is from day one on our hike. We went to the Golan Heights.
Oh, you did?
So this is in the area of just north of Sea of Galilee. This is right up there in the border with Lebanon and Syria. So this is just part of a reservation that they had. And I just thought this was cool, like seeing all the old buildings and like the structures of the foundations that are still there.
Did you see military people up there on the Golan?
We heard it, and we actually ended up seeing a Syrian firefight.
You did?
Yeah, I tried to get photos of it, and I missed the muzzle flashes by maybe a millisecond. But I have photos of the city and everything where it took place. This is just photos of some cows that I thought was just kind of cool.
Was everyone a little frightened with the?
Yeah, I mean, not a few of them were. Most of us were, I think, we're just happy about it. We were kind of like, oh, this is cool. You don't have this in America. This is neat, exciting. Not really thinking about the dangers.
Thank God we don't have it in America.
Yeah, it was.
Oh boy.
But it was an interesting
you
place.
You did.
We did.
All right. This is your group. Is this all 40?
This is this is all 40 of us. We got to a little river that we had to cross, which took a decent chunk of time, trying to get everybody across. Everyone took their own little route. Some people went directly across. Some people went through the shrubbery. Some people went in the water. But it was.
Now, where were most of these? I'm not going to say kids, but young adults from?
They were from all over. We had somebody from Hawaii. We had a lot of people from the New York area.
Okay.
Chicago, California. Texas, we had a couple.
So it was the whole USA it covered. Your trip.
We had and everyone from all different walks of life. We had artists, we had musicians, we had scientists.
Oh, so it was a great social event.
Yeah, it was a very, very sociable event. We got to meet a lot of different people and made a lot of friendships that we still chat every day. And
oh, look at this. Yeah. This is what?
This is just a natural formation of rock in one of the valleys in the Golan Heights.
Wow.
That just over years that the water has eroded the rock into this shape. This is kind of the natural form that it takes. And it was the water moved throughout different areas and the different valleys that you can see over time.
And this is fresh water.
Yes, this is fresh water. They had lots of little rivers and streams and
goes
stuff.
into the Sea of Galilee? Is that where it all? Oh,
I believe
right.
so. And this is a tree that I just kind of thought was very interesting because you see them throughout Israel. I mean, it's not necessarily the same tree, but it has that very round shape.
That burning bush look.
Yeah, I kind of associate it with like a tree of life sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
And I just thought it was very interesting that throughout these different environments, like the up here in the Golan Heights, it could easily be Scotland or England or something that I told you I was at. And then you get down to the south and it's desert and all sand and you still these same trees. And it's like I thought it was a very interesting connection between all different areas of the Holy Land. And then this is all these different cliffs and ravines. Sometimes they flood and they get a little bit, the water level gets a little bit higher. So a lot of the area we were hiking on is underwater part of the year as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Gee, I never remember seeing all these rivers.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You could tell me it was Colorado.
Yeah, it's very interesting to think when you hear Middle East, you think desert and sand.
I know it.
And
I know
this is Middle East. This is up north still. This is still in the Golan Heights. We went throughout the valley as well as we hiked up to the top and are overlooking the cliffs.
Now, is this what is traditionally Israeli land, or was this what we would call the buffer zone between Syria and Israel?
So this is part of the buffer zone initially.
Okay.
So this was initially part of, not part of Israel when it was initially formed in 1948 during the Yom Kippur War, I think it was, or the 6 Day War in 1967.
Yep.
Israel gained this land back during the conflict, and there's actually no treaty yet. There's just ceasefire lines.
I don't know if there will be, because I don't know if Syria exists today. I have to tell you, I mean, this is something I guess will come up in discussion, but I'm not sure Syria is a country anymore. They've lost control of so much of it, and you watch the news every day, and IS seems to be taking 3/4 of it, and Assad is way over on the Mediterranean, and I don't know who you would negotiate with.
Absolutely,
Did they discuss politics with you a little bit?
We discussed a lot about politics. We had an entire day where we met with one of the Middle East experts who just does seminars and teachings on Middle East politics, and it was very interesting. He looked at all the different narratives. So we learned about the Palestinian side, the Israeli side, and just different aspects of it, and saw some videos that were from each side. So we saw a video, for example, of from Gaza Television that was a children's television show where they were promoting killing Jews, and that was.
May I add, and Christians.
Yes,
that's a regular thing I notice they're doing now. Is it's not just let's kill the Jews, it's let's kill the Christians too.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, they've added a whole new spectrum to their killing.
Yes, and this is part of this is the border. So this is overlooking. This is on Mount Bentel, I believe, and this is currently overlooking Syria and a UN base. So
really? You really got into
they gave us a pretty good education of it. So this mountain range you see off in the distance, that is shared by both Israel, Lebanon, and Syria, and it has it was very beautiful just to look up there.
It is
the snow caps. So this is, if you kind of see where it turns from green to the farmland, that's kind of the line between it, and the city that you see off in the distance is actually abandoned. It's been completely abandoned, and they migrated to a city that's with the same name just about 100 yards away.
It is abandoned.
It's abandoned. I actually have a few shots of it.
So this is really, you're giving me very current events in January.
So this is the abandoned city. You can see the houses and stuff that have been kind of destroyed, either by just natural events or shelling. I'm not quite sure. But the city is no longer there. Everybody has kind of moved a little bit down the road to the other cities and towns. And I believe the name of this is Alquantra, I think is the name of it.
Oh,
I'm
impressed.
And then this is the top. It's actually a ski resort at the moment. But this is old trenches at the top there. And they actually still receive fire occasionally from militants on the other the areas.
I'm sure.
And they have mock silhouettes of soldiers that get shot at occasionally by snipers, and they shut the area down for a little bit. We did not, as far as my knowledge, receive any rounds or.
Well, I would hope they wouldn't bring you up there if they felt it was a bad day.
Yeah. In fact, this is the city where we saw the firefight at. And actually, the next day, they had a security issue, and they shut down that entire section of the Golan Heights, and that mountain was completely taken aback. But we saw muzzle flashes and could hear gunshots for roughly 10 minutes or so while we were at the top there.
Wow.
And this is the UN base where...
oh, this is a whole United Nations base?
Yes, so that's the UN base. That's on the kind of... it's in the Israel side, just on the border of the ceasefire line. And we chatted with a UN peacekeeper who was up at the top there with us, and he was telling us there was a large firefight in the city where we saw the muzzle flashes earlier in the morning, and that we were probably seeing skirmishes that were still as a result.
Now, this is a map.
This is a map of the Sea of Galilee. This is kind of the whole area that we had been, the Golan Heights, as well as the sea itself, and then the borderline and the mountains where we were at. I just thought it was interesting to kind of see this whole area and how big it seems when really it's very small. The entire state of Israel is smaller than New Jersey. So
yeah, it is. Did it surprise you? Did you think it was bigger? Or?
It felt bigger. I mean, we spent a lot of time on a bus, so you add up all the hours. Like we must be going a far way away.
It's not that big, and I think Israel has what, about 9 million people total?
I think so. I think that's about right.
Massachusetts a little over 6 million, so. Only 50% bigger than the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Not too big.
Yeah, it was a very interesting place, and very still had a lot of diversity despite being so small.
So, here we go. I won't interrupt you.
Sure. So this is Rabin Square.
In Tel Aviv.
Yes, in Tel Aviv. We actually met up with our Israeli counterparts there. Part of these groups, they all have between 8 and 10 Israeli students or soldiers who come and apply the same way we do and do these trips as well and get to travel throughout Israel, and they bond with us. They get to try out their English. And
really? So they link you with local young people, and they help guide you?
No, they're getting guided too. They're learning and they're seeing different areas.
Are these a lot of Israeli immigrants who recently arrived there, or are they?
Surprisingly not. We had one of them had that one's called Making Aliyah, where they came to Israel.
Yeah.
But most of them were 19, 20 years old, either in the military finishing up their service or just college students. And they wanted to see the different parts of Israel and learn about it and the same history. So this is
and meet American kids.
Yes, they wanted to. They definitely do that.
Everybody wants to meet the American kids.
Yeah,
and see your sneakers.
It was a very weird thing. All the Israelis and even just the ones in our group would come up and want to try their English skills with us, and they're very good. It's the same way we take Spanish or French here. For them, it's English.
Well, English is the language of the world for business, and Israel is a very big. High tech. Did they talk to you today about all the high tech they're into and medical technology?
Absolutely, they talked about.
So they need to speak English.
Yeah, they do a lot of agriculture as well, a lot of olives. Yes. And they do a lot of crazy stuff there, and there are a lot of research in science and environmental science and water conservation.
I don't know if they have much of a film industry. Did they discuss with you?
Not really.
You're ready to move there and do films?
One of the students though with us was that did film stuff, so he was talking to me about his short films that he did, and he studied communications in college. So we had a nice little chat about that and bonded a bit over which movies we liked and stuff like that. He was a very big Clint Eastwood fan, so we talked about all the Clint Eastwood movies and his both acting and directing.
So this is what?
So this is where Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated. This is the actual spot. They had a little memorial for him. He was very, very close with Bill Clinton, both as a friend as well as just a fellow politician. And Israel's very, very big on bumper stickers.
Yep.
Apparently, so that's a big thing for them. They're very, very fond of them. So we saw lots of bumper stickers and stuff that said, "Friend, you will be missed." And he was actually assassinated by an Israeli, not a Jewish Israeli, not a Palestinian or anything like that. And was very surprising is that he was surrounded by 9 bodyguards when this happened.
Really?
And
doesn't give you much faith in the bodyguards.
No, it was very surprising that they were able to make it through. And this is.
I know Bill Clinton. I think had a very good relationship with them, and
they helped
worked very diligently to try to have a Middle East peace agreement when he was president.
And they were all part of negotiating that, and I think they all ended up with the Nobel Prize for Peace. Along with Yasser Arafat, I believe. So this is where he was shot, and this is a little memorial they placed there. In remembrance of it. This is behind a stage. And these markers you see on the ground are where different people involved were standing and the directions in which they were facing. So, and then they're numbered by which security guard they were, as well as where Rabin was staying, as well as the shooter who shot him and killed him. And I thought that was just very cool way of memorializing what happened and where everyone was, and you can go back and see just how close everybody was standing and how just strange it was that this was able to happen. So this one, this plaque is the shooter. I believe his name was Yigal Amir or something.
I think that sounds. Don't quote me, but I think that sounds correct.
And he was a law student and very, very unhappy with the Oslo agreement that they reached, the peace agreement that they came up with, and thought he was putting Jewish lives at risk. And this plaque is actually where Rabin was standing, where he was shot, as well as the shoes of one of my fellow Birthright trip goers.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, we didn't have a whole lot of time there, so it was hard getting just solo shots. And this is in the Independence Hall in Tel Aviv, and that's Golda Meir's chair that she sat in during the independence process where they created Israel as a state.
And this is, it was what, kind of like a house, I think,
yeah,
wasn't it?
It was a house. When they first made Tel Aviv, it was they like auctioned off different parts of land, different parcels. It was like, oh, you have plot 6, you have plot 7, and this couple, I forget the name though. They turned their house into an art museum in the end, and then it was dedicated and left to the city of Tel Aviv and to Israel.
I think it might have been a mayor. I think he was the mayor of Tel Aviv.
Yeah, I think he was too. But it was very, very cool place and very, very interesting to see how everything got converted.
Tel Aviv, that whole area, I think one of the Rothschilds was very, very generous and developed the bulk of Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv is very different than the rest of Israel, I found. It was very modern, and you could get non-kosher food. There was cities, there was people driving around on Shabbat. Yeah, things were open 24/7.
Did that surprise you before getting there, or you had kind of heard that?
I didn't hear much about that. I was just kind of assuming that everything shuts down on Friday, and I had seen photos of people stopping. And
Jerusalem, I think.
Jerusalem was very much like that. We ended up spending Shabbat in Jerusalem.
Here you are. You're in an open market.
Yeah, so this is I believe it's Carmel Market, HaCarmel Market in Tel Aviv.
Okay.
And this was very crowded. It was just kind of cool to see all the different things that they all had there. Local olives and dates and things like that.
This could be anywhere. This could be in Casablanca, Marrakesh, Morocco, Turkey. It all looks the same.
Yeah, and then they had little trinkets. You might as well be a street vendor in New York and see the little watches and stuff.
Yep.
A variety of different things, little stands, very good falafel. I think the best falafel and shawarma I had in Israel was at a street vendor in this market, which was very surprising. And of course, they have candy. I thought that was kind of cool to see. They have all these natural things and agriculture, and then a gigantic candy store in the same market. I just thought this was a very cool look of this square where this market was at one end. Graffiti and street art was very big in Israel, all over the country. You'd see stuff like this. Some of it was very artistic, and some of it was more graffiti-like. But it was just kind of cool to see all this art just throughout.
This is where?
This is Jerusalem. This is from our first day in Jerusalem. We spent 3 days total. I believe this is the Olive Mountain or something like that.
Oh, Mount of Olives. Okay.
Mount of Olives, I think, is what the section is.
Yep.
Jerusalem was. I was very surprised at how diverse the area was. I didn't really expect it to be have so many different religious groups there.
Oh, really?
I kind of knew that there was an Arabic Islam population, and that was a big thing there. But there was a lot of Christianity, a lot of churches. There's an Armenian section.
Yep.
And this is a view of the Dome of the Rock, and from our first day up there on the mountain.
Which is a very controversial area, because that sits above the wall of the old temple.
Yes.
And it's the third or fourth holiest site, I think, in Islam.
Yes.
And there's a lot of...
This is more of it. This is, you see, there's a church. I don't know if you can make out, but there's a church up there on the right.
Yep.
This is, and again, still green, still very green, and
yeah, you
luscious.
had great weather.
Yes. They tell us, though, that if we had come like 2 months later, everything would have been a little bit more dried out because it wasn't raining a whole lot. And this is, I think it's Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Which would be Dome of the Rock.
Yes, it's well, actually, this one's next to the Dome of the Rock.
Oh, okay.
This one has a grayish top, and the other one is gold. But this is also one of the, I think, the top 3 holy sites for Islam. This is right outside the old city of Jerusalem. As you can see, it was peppered from all the different conflicts in the over the years, mainly the Independence War and the Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War. So these are rounds from everything. And this is mezuzah that's at the entrance of it that is actually made out of artillery shells that had from these wars that they formed into a mezuzah.
I didn't know you could make a mezuzah.
I didn't either. Which is one of the reasons I took a photo of it. I had to prove to people this exists, that they can do this. And this is from the rooftop of the Jewish quarter, which I was also surprised. They have so many different quarters. They have an Armenian quarter, a Christian quarter, an Islam quarter. And then these roofs are used as streets because there's so much congestion there that people just walk atop the roofs. And,
oh, really? I never knew that.
Yeah, so we would see people walking in the roofs. It was kind of odd at first, then you kind of got used to it. As you can see, satellite TV is very popular in Jerusalem still, so it's not like you're going back in time too far. And this is a menorah. This isn't a Hanukkah menorah, but this is the type of menorah that was used that kind of led to Hanukkah, where the oil burned for longer than it should, for 8 nights. And this is, I don't remember how old that was. But
oh, and now, okay, and now we're at the Holy Wall.
Yeah, so this is the Western Wall. It's about, one thing I thought was very kind of surprising is that this is about 62 feet high, the Western Wall. And this is only about half the size of it used to be. This is part of the Second Temple. This is one of the only walls that's of the temple that still stands.
Did they take you underneath at all?
I did. I was fortunate enough to go to, I think it's called Wilson's Arch, if I remember correctly. But we had to go inside. It's like a cave with everyone praying. But this was like, I think one of my favorite experiences throughout the trip was coming here. Because you just learned and felt so much. Very large police presence there. And we had a security officer with us who was...
You did?
He was our age, so he was very cool. He was...
With a gun and everything?
Yeah.
Who was with the group the whole time?
Yeah, he was a medic as well as a...
oh, really?
We debated who had the better medical skills, but he was very confident that he would win in that. But he was armed and he kept us safe. And this tunnel... is filled with police.
They did have you with an armed guard the whole trip?
Every single group had one.
Really?
But yeah, so we chatted with both him as well as our Israeli members, and they were telling us that the reason that they have so much security there, and this was on a Friday, is that they have on many Shabbats, they have people from the Muslim section over on this other side of this wall throw rocks and stuff, and try to attack basically the people on the other side. So
and they were saying that right in January 2015,
yes,
you were hearing that.
This is a very common occurrence, apparently, that especially on Shabbat, so that's why we were seeing all these extra police gearing up in tactical gear, is that this is a big thing, and that they stay in this this tunnel here, which goes onto that other side of the event that something like that happened. We did not see anything like that. That didn't happen to us.
Now, were they still separating the women's side from the men? They were, okay.
Yeah, so
because the last time I was there, they were having a big brouhaha. The women were outraged, and they wanted...
I can imagine, because they don't get to go to that little cave area, Wilson's Arch, I think, that little section.
So nothing changed?
Nothing has changed.
Okay.
There's still the women's side and the men's side. This is a memorial for the Holocaust that sits there in the Western Wall. It's 6 stars for 6 million Jews that were killed in the Holocaust. This is us down at the Western Wall, a bunch of different people praying. I thought this was a very interesting spot because there's a very diverse area. People from all walks of life. You'd see the very Orthodox, Hasidic Jews there. You'd see teenagers, adults, young and old, people dressed like they just came out of, like they're in Tel Aviv. This is one of my favorite photos that I have. This is kind of showing that diversity, and at a desk, kind of learning, studying, and then on one side you have the traditional Orthodox Hasidic Jew praying, and on the other side you have a young adult
in his jeans,
just someone just like us, like me or anyone else in the group praying as well, and a young person studying I don't know if what the Torah or something religiously significant in the middle, kind of dividing that. Kind of don't know which way they're going. And this is inside that arch, that section that the women can't go to.
Oh, okay.
This is all underground, and there's this was a very cool place. There's no natural light. Everything kind of is lit from a variety of different sources. And again, lots of different people in there. This is out at Mount Herzl, the military cemetery. This is part of that, as well as this is where Herzl, who was a very big Zionist leader, he created the World Zionist Organization.
And the kids on the left, these are
people in our group. One of them, the guy who you can kind of see with the beard, his name was Ben. He plays in a funk band.
Okay.
He's from Baltimore. And then the other one, her name is Natasha. She was a she did real estate, I think.
Oh, okay.
But she was there as well. And this is up there, we're at the top of Mount Herzl, and this is where Herzl is buried, his tomb. And they had an architectural contest, submit your designs for his tomb, and they ended up going with this, which was very just kind of simple, and just open so everyone could see. And I think he died in 1904, and he was very big. And I didn't know this, but this is something I found out on the trip, that there's a big movement to make a Holy Land in, I think it was Uganda.
Yes, there was talk of that. Yes,
before they got Israel, and he actually voted to accept that, and then it got rejected. Ended up getting rejected after he had died.
I think you're right, though. There was talk of building a nation in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, and this is the same sort of tree that you'd see throughout. This one a little bit more larger and has flowers around it, a little bit less natural looking, as far as it's got more of a garden aspect. This is Yitzhak Rabin's tomb. This is where he's buried.
Okay.
And they have a separate section of the cemetery that's for all of the presidents and the big leaders of Israel, and they're all kind of entombed in similar fashions. So this is where he is and his wife, and this is Golda Meir's tomb.
In the same area.
Same area, and all of them have relatively similar tombs as each other. They're kind of these rock things coming out like Herzl has. And I thought it was just a very beautiful setup and very different than how they do things in America as far as cemeteries go. This is the military cemetery.
This looks similar to our military cemetery.
Yeah.
Except we usually a flat stone.
And I thought this was very cool because they have these little tombs with gardens on top, little bits of grass. And then they did different types of...
It's very pretty.
And at the bottom there is a group tomb, which they did sometimes. And initially it was done out of rush, but also it was done because sometimes they couldn't recognize who was who in the end of the conflict, and they just put them together with their fellow soldiers. This is another aspect of it, and people had gone through. The soldiers come through and visit the military cemetery often as part of their service, and they have people stand guard on the memorial. They have on the Independence Day, and they have soldiers stand at the lone soldier site. And lone soldiers are basically non-Israelis who come and join the Israeli army, and they fight with them.
These would be like Druze people.
No, these are more like Americans, Europeans.
Oh, really?
They would make
yes, I remember meeting kids from Australia and everything.
They would.
So what do they call them? A little bit
lone soldiers.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So lone soldiers come by and they have no family there to visit them on these days. So they have soldiers who stand guard. And they
Did that surprise you that kids came from?
Yeah, I thought that was a very
countries?
unique aspect, and I didn't really expect it to be as common as it is. There's lots of different.
I know. I found that surprising.
One of my friends from college actually did that. So she was part Israel. She was half Israeli anyway, but she didn't have to go and serve. She left New Jersey and went into Israel, and is currently in the IDF. And her unit's doing 2 years mandatory service.
And how does she like it?
Loves it.
Absolutely
loves it.
I will tell you one thing that they told me when I was talking with young kids is they said it's very important for them socially and business-wise to serve in the military because all through their lives they have a lot of connections from the service.
Absolutely.
And people, like here in the United States, they say, oh, where did you go to college? It's kind of, your networking and link is very important. Whereas in Israel, what unit did you serve in? Where did you fight? Where did you, do this or that? Is very much a part of their, persona.
Absolutely. And it was very cool seeing talking to the different members of our Israeli groups, and then seeing them kind of go back and forth. Oh no, my group was better. My group was better. And they were arguing was a very big part of Israel and Israelis. Yeah. I've noticed they're very
everywhere argues.
But they'd have a friendly conversation, and you'd ask them what was going on, and they're just like, "Oh no, we're agreeing. We're agreeing." It looks like you're arguing to everybody else, but they were agreeing. This is actually one of the lone soldiers' graves. His name is Michael Levin, I believe. He was from Philly.
He died,
and he got killed in the Second Lebanon War in 2006. And this is his grave, and as you can see, lots of people visited and have put Philly's things in his unit stuff on top of it, and it was a very big deal when he was killed. And this is at Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Memorial in Israel.
You went there too.
We did.
Okay.
And this is at the Children's Museum that was part of it, the Children's Memorial. And we had a long talk about what we personally felt that these stone pillars meant to us. And for me personally, it was very much kind of like they're cut short, like they're not fully there. You don't know what could have been made out of it. It was kind of broken at the end, and I thought that was what it meant to me, seeing all this and seeing unfinished, exactly. This is Jerusalem, where they had breakdancing in the streets to, I believe it was Snoop Dogg.
Okay.
Which I thought was I did not expect that at all. Jerusalem was a very strange place. I was expecting to be very holy and traditional, but they had tattoo parlors, they had breakdancing, very blasting rap music. It was a lot different than I expected.
You felt like you were in the United States, huh?
Yeah.
At South Beach.
Yeah. And this is some more of that art that I was talking about. This is in Sfat, which is another one of the holy cities, which is known for its art, and a lot of artists are there. And I think Kabbalah is also from there, which is
the mystic part of religion.
Yes, the mystic part. So this is just street art. This is painted on a door to like an electrical box or something. And of course, being in EMS, I had to take note of the Hatzola motor scooter things that they had. Little Vespas.
Really? So what are these?
So there's two aspects of the way Israel does EMS and does ambulance service. So they have Hatzola, which is volunteer.
Okay.
And then they have Magid David Adom, which is the paid service, which is like the equivalent to what I do. But they ride around on these motorbikes and kind of act as like a first responder and can get there really quickly. I didn't know that.
So if there is an incident, they quickly get there.
Yes. So we saw them in action a couple times, riding off on their motorbikes. But they have a very large amount of people who do this and do the volunteer aspect of it. And this is also in America. You'll see it in New York a lot. They have a Hatzola volunteer ambulance service.
Really?
Yep. And they have that in New York City and upstate New York and different places across the country.
It's very specific areas or the whole city?
The whole city. They partake in the 911 system.
And it's the same group as in Israel?
Same exact group. Different little different subgroups in different places, but same group, they're the same thing. That
must have been fascinating to be able to talk to people in the same profession.
Absolutely.
I very rarely get to talk to anybody who does what I do.
Yeah.
And I would like that in another country.
Yeah, and this is more art. This is in Sfat. This is inside a synagogue that we went to. We visited several different synagogues, and it was very different seeing the way that they're set up there as opposed to in America, which is more church style in the sense that it's like an auditorium. The rabbi goes up front, and everyone sits and watches. But there, everyone has the same seat. The rabbi is in the center on a pedestal, and the seats just go in circular and surround him. So every single person in the community, it's kind of like going back to like kindergarten where you sit and play Duck Duck Goose or something, and you're all sitting up, you all have the same seat, the same view, a big sense of equality. And this is one of those towers that the rabbi would stand in, and then the art continues on to the ceiling. And I forget why, but I just remember being very fascinated by the matzah in a box hanging on the wall.
I see it. Okay.
They never gave us an explanation of why it was there, but I just thought that was just something I had to document that it existed as well.
Matzah, for those viewers, is a unleavened bread that has not had yeast and rises that you use in Passover, which is the whole holiday when you celebrate the exodus of the Jews from bondage in Egypt. And you didn't have time to bake the bread, so you eat matzah.
Yes.
Which is good with butter and salt, but plain it's not so good.
I have a lot of non-Jewish friends who love it, and I just don't understand it. and this is in one of the synagogues as well. This is a hole from the Independence War that broke out when Israel was founded. And Tzfat was a very big center of that because they had an equal parts Muslim and Jewish community. And there was a big conflict of who was going to have the city, who was going to be in control of it once the British left. And this is a round that went through the temple into the center where the rabbi stands, and they just left it there so people could see. But I thought that was, again, just...
Did you happen to notice, or did you get a feeling that a lot of the Muslim people got along fine with the Jewish Israelis when you were there?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was. There was. I mean, in some aspect, there was a sense of you could tell at times there was a little bit of hesitance, but for the most part, it wasn't that you were Jewish or a Muslim. You were an Israeli. Like at the end of the day, that's what it was.
Yeah, I have always found whenever I'm in Israel, there seemed to be much more of a comfort with each other than the media seemed to portray.
Absolutely. In most places, that was the case. Like like I said, they were Israelis. It didn't really matter as much. Another thing I found surprising was the Druze, as well as which is a sect of Muslim, of the Muslim religion, and the Muslims themselves had like the highest draft rate into the army. They didn't have to serve not being Jewish, but they had something like an 80 or 90% rate of.
I mean, I'm sure somebody would disagree with me, but my understanding is that today the Muslims in Israel, for the most part, have more freedoms than Muslims anywhere else in the Middle East Arab countries. Certainly
possible.
Women's rights.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you on the women's rights aspect.
Certainly the women in Israel are always encouraged to be educated and be active in business or medicine or university or whatever, versus what you still have in Saudi Arabia, where I don't think they even are allowed to drive.
Absolutely.
So
and this
I can't breathe. Okay.
Yes, I thought this was very interesting that this is we're guessing very much in line with the Ferguson and the New York, the Staten Island incidents. But I thought that was just kind of cool and just interesting that all this half a world away is still a big issue there, and they are very big on equal rights in Israel. And this was in a candle shop in Tzfat, one of the mediums.
Oh, these are candles.
These are candles.
Oh, okay. I thought they might be candies.
Lots of candy as well in Tzfat.
Candles, interesting.
Yeah, this very big candle shop. They have lots of different types of candles, and they're all handmade, and they have like lots of art out of it. So they didn't have just snowmen; they had like ships and castles and things like that are all just gigantic candles. And I thought, and this is another one of the temples that we visited in Tzfat with that kind of circular setup, the traditional setup with more, and again, lots of art. And lots of art and paintings on the ceilings as well.
And this is a synagogue.
This is that same synagogue as well, where you kind of see that setup where everyone sits on the edges and looks in. Obviously, most synagogues in America don't have a small enough population to fit like this, but it was kind of cool to kind of sit there and see how it's done traditionally, and see all the beautiful art. And this is a chandelier and art that's painted on the ceiling there.
Looks very nice. And they're maintaining it well.
Absolutely. There's a lot of historic parts of it that you could look back and see from hundreds and thousands of years ago, even, of like different sections
Why?
of the
How
city.
old did they tell you this temple was?
I don't recall this one specifically. I believe this one was at least 1,000 years old.
Really?
I think that this one specifically, if I remember correctly, was about 1,000 years old.
Really? Oh my God!
And this is,
here you are, exercise
yes,
time.
One of our group members was a yoga instructor, so we ended up climbing Masada, which is a mountain fortress.
Oh, you went to Masada
to watch the sunrise and to pass the time before the sun came up. There was a group yoga event. As you can see, we didn't start off with a whole lot of coordination, but eventually we kind of found our stride and were able to do yoga together as a group. And as you see, we got as the sun came up.
You can see the difference in the land versus the Golan, how much drier.
Absolutely. So this is on top of a mountain. We hiked up this mountain in the dark at like 4 in the morning to watch the sunrise.
And they told you the story of the Romans and everything?
and this is the sunrise as it kind of developed over time. You can see, I probably took 100 photos of just this sunrise. Unfortunately, it was a little cloudy, but it was still very powerful and very, very interesting to see what people saw. This is all thousands and thousands of years ago. This was, I think, just before. This is like, I think, 90 BC.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that is when this was all created. But the history of just all the different history that was involved with this. There was actually a mass suicide at the top of it. They didn't want to kill the workers who were creating this ramp because they were Jewish. They were captured Jews for the Romans, and that was how they would get up to the fortress and destroy it. So they decided that instead of killing, they would refuse to kill their fellow Jews. So they would let it happen, but they wouldn't be taken alive. So they ended up all committing mass suicide. But all of this stone and this stuff up here at the top of the mountain was thousands of years old.
Yes.
And they drew lines of where the restoration stood, of what was left and what wasn't, and what was recreation. But the vast majority of it, this is all old. This is all original. This isn't a recreation. This is thousands of years old of this massive temple fortress.
Which is near the Dead Sea, if I'm correct. Yes.
And this is part of a bathhouse that they had. And this is tile. This is mosaic tile that, again, I thought was just fascinating that it was able to survive this long and such intricate work for being so old. And these birds were very annoying. I forget what they were called, but they were very loud and made lots of noise. So when we were trying to hear about the different things, and they were explaining us the history of this they
mountain, wanted you to feed them.
They wanted us to feed them, and someone did feed them a multi-grain bar. So of course more of them came.
Oh, these are starlings.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I think so.
That sounds right. If I remember, that sounds right. But they were very loud and annoying. But they were very photogenic.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is an olive press in the north that we went to.
So we're back out of Masada.
Back out of Masada.
Did you go to the Dead Sea down there?
We did go to the Dead Sea.
You stuck your feet in?
I floated with.
Okay.
I put the mud on and did that. I just was afraid to bring my camera there because it was going to get wet or sandy and destroyed, and it was.
All right. So you left that area and went way up north.
Yes, I think this was actually before we went south again.
Oh, okay.
But this was an old olive press from the ancient times. It's still around, still functional.
And they're making olive oil.
They are. They don't make as much here, but this is a little touristy, I will admit, but it was still very cool to see.
They have a very strong wine business in northern Israel.
We were very looking forward to that, but they brought us to the olive stuff.
The olives instead of the wine? The wineries are fun. You drink.
I would imagine. I think they're a little nervous about that, but we were all like joking.
Oh, because you were young.
Yeah, and more of these trees that kind of have that rounded top, and this is in the Negev, which is in the south. And this is one of our last hikes that we went on this was a very desert environment and very sandy and rocky, and again, it was all very beautiful and very open. This was a little bit hotter than it was up at the north, hiking up there.
Yeah, it's very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know, it surprises me.
No river crossings, though, which was nice. And I thought this was very cool because you could see just the dirt just change. So you have that brown line that kind of comes in the middle there. This was a very strenuous hike, I will admit. It was a lot of steep cliffs that we went up to. We probably, I think this was about...
This is your thing anyway. You like hiking and all that.
I was very fond of it. Some of the members of the group were not prepared. I don't think as much. This trip I went on was specifically for outdoors. It's called Israel Outdoors.
Oh, this was all student or young people who wanted an outdoor experience.
Yeah, and they had...
Oh, really? They broke it down to that kind of level. Isn't that something?
This is one of the more popular ones, though.
Did they have one for eating? That would be my trip.
I think that's all of them. They all end up being it for eating. But there was lots and lots of eating. I want to sign up for
the eating tour. Okay.
Lots of eating. And then they had rock stuff like this with words in it throughout.
How did you like the food in Israel?
It was fantastic. By the end, I was a little sick of hummus, but it was still delicious nonetheless. But a lot of hummus, a lot of food. But they also had a lot of like weird things that were like to make stuff kosher, so you can't eat milk and dairy and meat together. So they'd have like ice cream and stuff that's made out of almond milk instead.
Yes,
so you could have it. So it was.
I found they had beautiful vegetables. I don't know if they came from Israel necessarily, but the tomatoes were delicious. The cucumbers, the lettuce,
very much. I found the exact same thing. So this is during one of the hikes. It's very hard to make out, but there's a fighter jet that flew over our heads.
Oh, that's what that is.
So that's.
I thought it was one of those birds you didn't like.
No, this is a fighter jet. So we had a couple experiences with this. As I said earlier, there was an security incident, where they believed Hezbollah terrorists made their way across the Golan into the Golan Heights through tunnels that were, and then there was an attack actually on a military group that killed.
Oh, this was the week you were there. They killed some big shot from Iran.
Yes, so that happened.
That's when you were there.
Yes, and in the retaliation of that, they attacked I think it was a tank or something, and they killed 4 Israeli soldiers and wounded like 7 others. So we were actually woken up in the middle of the night by jets going to go bomb Syria.
Oh.
So
and all the parents call up and go, "Where are you? What's going on?"
Yes, they were very good at warning us prior to anything happening, but it was also.
You were there with that incident. That was.
So we were talking. I
think they killed some big Iranian general and a bunch of his.
That's. I believe that's exactly
Iran,
right.
Of course, supports Hezbollah.
They do.
And supports Hamas.
Yes.
And is part of the reason Syria has broken apart, because they're with Assad.
Yeah.
And
so when you hear about rockets and stuff that are going over from Gaza, those are all Iranian supplied.
Yes.
Or homemade. This is our last hike. This is the I forget what this is called, but this is one of the canyons in the Negev as well. And this was a nice little mixture of green grass and shrubbery and cliffs. So this kind of felt like kind of almost like a Grand Canyon sort of feel to it.
It has that look. It's very Western. The Clint Eastwood kid liked this area.
Loved it. Loved it. He was
ready to bring Clint out. And
he was. We discussed that actually. It was just like, we wonder if we can get him to make a movie out here. I offered to be the field medic for that. And this is that same hike. They had a river that floods through this, and this was. We were warned that you couldn't eat there, you couldn't bring food or drink, you couldn't go in the water at all. Because they're just they want to preserve everything. So this is a big nature preserve area.
I got you.
So you couldn't smoke, littering was like a big no-no. But they also had flash floods in this area as well. You can see where the different water lines are at different times of the year. And this was another waterfall there. And of course, in typical...
These are great photos. You did a great job.
Thank you. If you want to pay for me to go back, I'll go take some more for you.
You went free. Tell me you forgot everything. You got to go again.
Yeah. So this is the top. This is like rather halfway up that canyon. So we climbed halfway up, and then we're still looking at more canyons. Again, more green, more luscious, more kind of far west.
Look
southwest.
at this.
This is the top. We climbed all the way from the bottom of this canyon. You can't even see in this photo to the top here. There's also caves that you can see kind of sort of on the left side where Christian monks would go and stay back in ancient times.
You really saw parts of the country I never even knew existed.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. So this is Ben Gurion's grave in the Negev. It's a massive crater there that the overlook where he asked to be buried. So he's not buried in the National Cemetery where all the other leaders are. He asked to be buried here, and they have a big environmental center there named after him. And as you see in this, and you can see the other ones as well, there's rocks that you put on the grave, and the meaning behind that is you're doing something that doesn't mean you'll get anything back. So you can't do a favor for somebody and then expect something in return because they're dead. So you're doing a favor, remembrance, with knowing that you will get nothing in return. So it's a selfless act. But this is where him and his wife are buried, and this is that canyon, that crater area that he's buried at. This is probably 20 feet away, and this was again a very beautiful, very powerful part of the trip. Is seeing
looks like a painting.
Thank you. I was going for that. That was my
really?
goal when I took this photo. Was I wanted to be painting like
it does. It looks like a painting.
And we spent, I think, like they had us do 2 minutes of just kind of silent reflection there, and that was again very powerful and very, very important part to a lot of us on that trip. Was kind of just reflecting there. So this was one of our last days, so to think this was it. This is reflecting on the entire trip. And this is in Jaffa, which is
I have been there. I remember that.
Yeah, this is just north of Tel Aviv. This is our last day. We actually left for the airport like an hour after this photo was taken.
I remember that tree. It's hanging.
Yep, and they have a couple of those, and an artist did that.
Yep.
Jaffa is known for its oranges, where they have Jaffa oranges, which are everywhere. But Jaffa was a very cool place.
I think there was a bar room right up the street from this that I remember sitting in and drinking.
Yeah. It's also a very Muslim populated area.
Oh, really? Okay.
So lots of mosques. We heard a call to prayer, and it was, but again, not a whole lot of conflict, not a whole lot of hostility between us and the Muslim groups there. Very friendly, very sociable. And this is sunset in Jaffa. This is right before we left. We left for the airport, like I said, about an hour or two after this, and had our very long, much longer flight home.
What was your sense of most of the kids as you left, Israel?
A lot of change. A lot of people extended, which is an option you can do, where you basically just move your plane ticket back, so you can spend. You can.
Oh, they allowed you to stay longer if you wanted.
They don't support you though, so that you're no longer getting hotels and food. They're basically just moving your plane ticket.
Okay.
So it's not an extra cost.
And several kids did that.
I think about 10 of us. 10 of them did it.
Oh, so you were one of the ones who extended.
No, I did. I was planning. I ended up wanting to, but with all my time that I dedicated to my other jobs and tasks.
But some of the young people did extend.
Yeah, a lot of them did.
And the ones who went back with you, what sense did you get out of their trip?
It felt like everybody had a little bit of their own little life-changing event.
Really? So you would say it was life-changing?
I think for most of us, yeah. I think it was like a very different. You left with a different perspective on life, than when you came in, and much more in touch with yourself and the religion and stuff. So a lot of people who went on this trip didn't have bar mitzvahs or bat mitzvahs, didn't have Hebrew names or or Jewish upbringings. So we did a little ceremony for them where they got bar mitzvah on the top of a mountain.
Oh, really?
And
so
you think
cool. So you would say that it definitely made them feel more Jewish.
Absolutely. I think
that's the purpose of the Birthright trips anyway.
Yeah, I think everyone felt that.
I think the Brofman family actually founded the idea.
I think,
it's carried on.
Yeah.
But you do feel though they felt that way.
Absolutely, and like a lot of bonds and friendships that were made.
And you're staying in touch.
Absolutely, we still stay in touch. We still chat on Facebook and text each other, and like are planning on doing little mini reunions and stuff for different people throughout the areas. But it was.
Well, I have to tell you, it was very, very interesting. A lot of places I've never seen in Israel. And just thank you very much for coming and being our guest on Travels with Jack. I hope you'd be a good guest to come back, because I like your venues. You're out there in the wilderness and everything. And
Thank you.
We'll have you go on a river ride or somewhere and come back and fill us in.
Sure, I'm going to Seattle this May, and I'll
Please take lots of pictures.
I'll take lots of pictures.
Lots of pictures and come back.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.